Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 32 female, husband, 35 male, and I had been married for about 6 years. Things were good at first, but over time they started to deteriorate. My husband, let's call him Mark, has always been a bit, let's say, traditional. He firmly believed that as a man, he should be the breadwinner. That was fine for me by the most part, but I also wanted to work and contribute. I had a good job in marketing, and I loved what I did. Then, I found out I was pregnant. We were overjoyed at first, but things changed pretty quickly. I lost my job a few months into the pregnancy. The company was downsizing, and I was one of the unfortunate ones. It wasn't a huge deal to me at first, because I was confident I'd find something else. Mark became increasingly cold and distant, accusing me of not pulling my weight and relying too much on his income. He started making comments about how he didn't sign up to be the only one working, and how he couldn't support a lazy wife and a baby. I was hurt, but I was also determined to find work again. However, as my pregnancy progressed, it became more challenging to secure a job. Employers don't exactly jump at the chance to hire someone who is visibly pregnant. Mark's resentment grew. He became more detached and often stayed out late, claiming he was working late or blowing off steam. I tried to make things work. I really did. I focused on managing our household, preparing for our baby, and maintaining a positive outlook. But Mark had already made up his mind. A month before my due date, he dropped the bombshell. He wanted a divorce. He said he couldn't handle the pressure of supporting a family on his own, and that he wasn't ready for fatherhood. I was devastated. I was jobless, pregnant, and about to be a single mother. I begged him to reconsider, but his mind was made up. He moved out the next day. A week later, I heard through mutual friends that he had already started seeing someone new. At this point, I was completely heartbroken. I felt betrayed and abandoned, but I was determined to move on and be strong for my unborn child. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I received a call from a lawyer. My uncle, who I had been quite close to, but hadn't seen in years, had passed away. To my absolute shock, he left me his business, a very successful business worth about $8 million. I couldn't believe it. It was like a lifeline thrown to me in my darkest hour. I went through a whirlwind of emotions, from disbelief to gratitude to overwhelming relief. The business was doing exceptionally well, and I found myself suddenly thrust into a position of wealth and responsibility. I decided not to tell Mark. He had made it clear he didn't want me or our child in his life, and I figured that if he didn't want to support us when he thought we were destitute, then he didn't deserve to know about my windfall. Fast forward 6 months, and Mark was officially remarried to his new wife, Lisa. They seemed happy, and I was content in my new role as a mother and business owner. I was thriving, both personally and professionally. I had a supportive network of friends and family, and I was slowly healing from the pain Mark had caused me. But then Mark reached out to me one day, saying he and Lisa wanted to visit and see our son. Despite everything, I believed it was important for my son to know his father, so I agreed. When they arrived, everything seemed normal at first. But then, as Lisa and I started talking, I noticed her face turning pale. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. I asked her if she was okay, and she muttered something about needing some air. Mark followed her outside, and I could hear their muffled voices raised in what sounded like a heated argument. When they finally came back inside, Mark looked furious, and Lisa looked like she was on the verge of tears. Later that evening, I got a call from Lisa. She was incredibly apologetic and explained that she had no idea who I was until she saw me. You see, Lisa worked for my company. She had been hired shortly after I took over, and she didn't know that I was the owner. She worked under my manager, and my name never came up. Apparently, she had been complaining to Mark about her difficult boss for months, not realizing she was talking about me. Mark, who had no idea about my inheritance or the business, was equally stunned. The irony of the situation was almost too much to handle. The man who left me because he didn't want to support a jobless wife and child was now married to someone who worked for the very company I owned. Mark was furious when he found out. He called me, demanding to know why I hadn't told him about the inheritance. I calmly explained that he had made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me or our child, and that he had no right to any part of my life or my fortune after the way he treated me. He tried to argue that he was entitled to some of the money, since we were still technically married when my uncle passed away. I laughed and hung up the phone. Over the next few weeks, Mark tried several more times to get in touch with me, alternating between angry demands and pathetic pleas. He even went as far as to say that we could start over and be a family now that I have money. I refused to entertain any of it. Lisa, on the other hand, seemed genuinely remorseful. She apologized profusely for everything and even offered to quit her job to avoid any awkwardness. I told her that wasn't necessary. She was a good employee, and I didn't hold any of this against her. Mark and Lisa's marriage has been strained since the revelation. I heard that Mark is struggling to accept the fact that his jobless ex-wife is now his wife's boss and a millionaire. Lisa seems to be caught in the middle, trying to navigate her new reality. As for me, I'm doing great. My son is healthy and happy, and I'm thriving in my role as a mother and business owner. I've even started dating again, taking things slow, but enjoying the process. I can't help but feel a little vindicated by how things turned out, but a part of me wonders if I was wrong for not telling Mark about the inheritance sooner. Maybe it could have changed things. Maybe it wouldn't have. I don't know. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband about my $8 million inheritance before he left? Mark left OP when she was the most vulnerable, and he did it in a way that showed he had absolutely no regard for OP or her unborn child. He made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. The fact that he wants a piece of OP's inheritance now just shows his true colors. He's only interested in OP when there's money involved. OP owes him nothing. I can't believe the nerve of some people. Mark abandons his pregnant wife because he doesn't want to support her. But the moment he finds out there's money, he suddenly wants back in? Unbelievable. He's clearly just after your inheritance. You did the right thing by not telling him. You didn't owe him anything after the way he treated you. And Lisa, well, she seems like she got a reality check too. Good for you for handling everything with such grace. Not the a-hole all the way. First of all, I'm so sorry you had to go through this. It sounds like you've been through a lot, and I can't imagine how hard it must have been to be pregnant and alone. But you are definitely not the a-hole. Mark chose to leave, and he chose to do so in a pretty cruel way. He wasn't there for you when you needed him the most, so why should he benefit from your success now? Also, props to you for not firing Lisa. It sounds like she was caught in a difficult situation herself. I hope things continue to go well for you and your son. Oh, the irony. Mark thought he was trading up by ditching his pregnant wife, but he ended up right back in your orbit, this time with you having all the power. I think you played this perfectly. You didn't go out of your way to hide anything. You just lived your life and took care of your child. Mark showed his true colors when he left, and now he's facing the consequences. Karma really came full circle on this one. Not the a-hole, and keep thriving. Yesterday was supposed to be one of the most happiest days of my life, and it turned out to be the worst. My fiancé never showed up to the ceremony, leaving me at the altar. His friends and family tried to get a hold of him, but all calls went straight to voicemail. After waiting an hour for him, I told my guests that there wasn't going to be a wedding. I opened the reception hall and told them to enjoy the food and open bar. Even if there was no ceremony, I still wanted them to have a good time and enjoy the food and drinks. I tried to call him a couple of times, but after 3 more failed calls, I just stopped and told everyone else who was trying to get a hold of him to stop. He made it clear he didn't want anyone to get a hold of him, and I wasn't going to have them waste their time. I didn't cry. I wasn't going to cry, at least not in front of everyone. His mother came to me and apologized through tears. She told me how disappointed she was in him and that she was so sorry. I just shook my head and stuck with her the entire time. I didn't want her to cry and feel bad for something that wasn't her fault. The real MVPs were all of my friends. They did their absolute best to keep things from being awkward and entertained everyone. They played music, danced, and one of them went as far as going back home to bring a projector and a game system for all the kids and teens to play against each other with. I was glad that the day was somewhat saved, but I still felt horrible. My would-be brother-in-law Ethan kept me from getting super drunk when I really wanted to. Told me that it would be awkward if I did so, So I did my best to keep everyone happy. After 11, I told everyone who brought gifts to take them back and get their money back. A few of them refused and had me keep the gifts they got. So now I'm back at the hotel we got and I'm alone. This morning I got a couple of missed calls from my fiancé and several messages that I haven't opened yet. I'm so angry at him. He humiliated me yesterday by not showing up when he could have told me he was getting cold feet. I had my friend message him that I want to be left alone, and that if he showed up at the hotel room, I was going to call my brothers to have him removed. So far, he hasn't shown up, but I am getting phone calls from his friends probably all wanting me to speak to him. I don't know if it's me being shallow or not, but now I'm rethinking our entire relationship and whether or not I see a future with him. So another issue is that I have an extra plane ticket. It was supposed to be for our honeymoon, but since the fiancé isn't here, I decided to enjoy my little getaway vacation for myself. A couple of friends are coming with me, but not for another week, since they got to get childcare, put in vacation time, etc., so they can't come since it's last second. To be honest, I want to invite Ethan because I've never traveled anywhere in my life. I know he's been where I'm going, and I want him to come so he can be there to show us the places to be at. Ethan told me he'd go for me, but should I invite him? I asked Ethan's mom and she was all for it, but I still don't know if it'll cause drama. Any advice? Update. Okay, so I feel like I should explain more about Ethan. First, I'm not going to take him. Second, I've known Ethan a little longer than my ex-fiancé. Please believe me when I say he's a close friend of mine. Both of us bonded by teasing his brother, and with that, we just kind of clicked and became fast friends. I wanted to take him because I didn't know how to use my ticket in the airport. I've never been traveling, and I didn't want to look dumb by trying to figure it out. Thankfully, someone said what to do, and I'm forever grateful, so now I feel much more confident. I know it sounded iffy trying to take Ethan, but honestly, it was for something innocent. I see him more of a brother than anything, now that I look at all the comments you guys left. And finally, I read my ex-fiancé's messages. Yes, he's alive. He wasn't in any terrible accident, and the reason he never showed up was because he found out he has a kid. His childhood sweetheart came by with a kid maybe a couple of weeks ago. His best man knew and never told me because my ex didn't want him to tell me until he was 100% sure, and I guess he found out today. He apologized so many times for not showing up, but he couldn't because he felt so guilty. Of what, I don't know. He said a large part of him wants to make things right and take care of his son because he's always wanted a family. So screw the last 3 years, right? I don't know if that means he's going back to his ex because he wants to talk over the phone. Honestly, I'm done. I think it's an excuse to get back with his ex. I don't believe he's ever gotten over her and her over him, which is why she chose now to show herself. He sent a picture of the kid to me, and I went over to ex-fiancé's mom's Facebook to see any picture she posted of ex-fiancé when he was a kid. They're low quality, but there is definitely a resemblance. It feels so surreal to me, like this is one big joke. I feel like I'm missing info, like there's something else going on, but I'll find out later. I haven't responded, so instead, I'm just going to open a bottle of wine and just get plastered. My best friend is currently on her way with takeout and ice cream, so I thought I'd share this. He literally left you standing at the altar. You absolutely should not have a future with someone who does that.